Okay, I have no idea if I'm in frame, but we're gonna assume I am. Hello guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today we are going to be talking about goldfish care. So, goldfish. Everyone knows about goldfish, the infamous first beginner pet, the #1 fish that people end up getting, and I can't blame them. I love my goldfish, but I ended up getting into goldfish because I actually knew the type of care that they required, unlike others, you could say. And it's not like their care is that difficult, you just have to really understand what you're getting into before you end up buying a few. So with that being said, if you enjoy animal and pet related content, I post every Monday, Thursday, and Saturday. So if you want to subscribe and hit the notification down below, be my guest. But with that out of the way, let's get straight on to talking about how to care for goldfish. So the first thing to recognize is there isn't just one type of goldfish. There are tons. Goldfish, as I kind of alluded to earlier, is one of the quintessential fish species, and because of that, it's been being bred in captivity for quite a long time. So because of that, there are tons of different varieties that you can go for, some really expensive, some less so, and it really just depends on what type you're looking for, and each of them have slightly different care requirements. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to be talking about the common fancy goldfish. However, there are kind of two genres that goldfish end up fitting into, and that is the common goldfish, or more of the torpedo body shape, and then also the fancy goldfish, or the egg-shaped goldfish. And each of these are pretty different in their care. Common goldfish, or the torpedo shape, generally requires a lot more space and lives a little bit longer. And the egg-shaped goldfish needs a little bit less space and generally doesn't live quite as long, just because they're a little bit more genetically mutated. But again, my experience is in fancy goldfish, so that's what I'm going to be sharing with you guys. So under the fancy goldfish umbrella, there are a ton of different types. There's orandas, there's black moors, there are telescope butterflies, there are telescopes, there's ranchu, there's ryukin. There are a ton of different types. So it's just about looking into those specific varieties and figuring out which ones you are the most interested in. Obviously, some of these are going to be a little bit more expensive, but again, it's up to you to decide what exactly your price point is going to be. So in theory, if you've already selected your specific desired type of goldfish, let's get straight into the actual requirements that you're going to be needing for this new pet fish. And the first thing to note is tank size. Again, for the fancy egg-shaped goldfish, the general rule is that per first goldfish is 20 gallons, and per additional goldfish added, it's 10 gallons. So just as an example, if let's say you wanted 5 goldfish, the first goldfish would count for 20 gallons, and then for the remaining 4, you would add 10 gallons. So you would need a 60-gallon tank minimum for just those 5 goldfish. So already, if you're doing the math in your head, you might be realizing that, wow, goldfish need a lot more space than people generally give them. And if you're thinking that, then that is definitely correct. Goldfish are not the perfect type of fish for those little bowls. Frankly, no fish are good for those little bowls, but especially goldfish, because they are very messy and they also get pretty big. So they're going to need a lot of space in order to grow into and be able to utilize as they continue to get larger and messier. So just as an example, I have 2 goldfish in the tank behind me, and this tank is a 40-gallon. So again, one of the fish counts for 20 gallons and the other one counts for 10 gallons. Again, I wanted to give them as much space as possible in order to swim around in. So now the tank size is out of the way. The most important step that you're going to need to realize is cycling your tank. And cycling your tank, a lot of people outside of the fish hobby don't realize is even a thing. And cycling is a process that your tank has to go through in order to allow the water to process the ammonia that your fish are producing and turn it into nitrates, which are less toxic to the fish. I am going to be going into this in a lot more detail in a video that is going to be coming up. So again, if you want to subscribe and wait for that video, please go ahead. But in simplest terms, this process has to be done before getting your fish, probably a month or 2 or even more, depending on how much gallons, depending on how many gallons a tank size you have. You're going to be needing to add biomedia from either another tank that you have, or you can ask the pet store, or sometimes you can buy it online. And then you're going to need to add drops of ammonia to your water pretty regularly and continue to test it. Once you have your tank cycled, the goal is that there's not going to be any ammonia in the tank and there's not going to be any nitrites. The only thing that you're going to be able to test for in your tank is going to be nitrates. So once your tank is fully cycled and all the ammonia is being transferred into nitrites and then the nitrites into nitrates, you are going to be able to put fish into it without it dying, because the ammonia from just them pooping and peeing in the tank would be too much for the fish. That is probably the number one reason why people only think fish live for a short amount of time, because they just don't know about the nitrate cycle and they end up shocking their fish to all the ammonia in their tank. Next is substrate. And substrate is just the stuff that's going to be going at the bottom of your tank. And there are a couple different options for this. There is a bare bottom tank, which is when you just don't have anything. You can have sand, you can have super fine gravel, you can have a little bit larger gravel, and you can also have river rocks. Now, as my suggestion for goldfish, if you want to have a bare bottom tank, then that's your prerogative. If you have a breeding project or you just like the way it looks, bare bottom tank is going to be easy to clean and easy to monitor your fish from. However, if you like the look of something on the bottom of your tank, my best suggestion would be sand, or at least a very fine gravel. Because if you have really large pieces of gravel, then bad bacteria generally gets into those cracks and crevices way too easily and it's harder to clean out. River rocks can work because they're a lot larger and generally going to let some of that bacteria flow back into the tank and then into the filter. But again, if you had the whole tank just as gravel this size or even larger, it could cause some of that to build up and possibly hurt your fish. Next is decorations for your tank. So the number one thing is just not to get anything that your goldfish can cut themselves on or something that they can wedge themselves in. They have long, beautiful fins that you don't want that to get cut on. And so if you have something in the tank that's super sharp and that their fins could possibly get damaged on, it's probably worth taking it out. I don't have live plants in my tank just because goldfish generally tend to pick at the ground and sift it through their mouth, and this can uproot the plants and they can also eat the plants. Next is heating. Now, heating is not entirely necessary in your goldfish's tank if you know that your room is going to float around that room temperature mark and isn't going to get much colder. That is generally where they are going to be happy with. But if you feel the need to monitor the heating in your tank or make sure it stays at a certain mark, then heating in the tank can be up to you and is your choice if you want to put it in your goldfish tank. Hello, this is Editing Sienna here, and I just realized that I did not include anything about filtration, which is very important for goldfish given how much they go to the bathroom. So just as a quick note in here, there are plenty of different options out there for filtration. There are hang-on back filters, there are sponge filters, but the general ones that I recommend are the hang-on back filters, and probably in addition to a secondary type of filtration such as the sponge filter, just because they go to the bathroom so often. Okay, thanks. Now for cleaning. I clean my tank twice a week, and this might seem like a lot to some people, but I always do about a 20 to 30% water change just to make sure that, again, all those nitrates are being able to be sucked out of the tank. And this again is just good for water quality and just make sure that your goldfish are as happy and healthy as they can be. I suggest doing water changes that often, and even more often if you have your tank filled with more goldfish than really should be in the tank. Now for feeding, I feed my goldfish a pellet, but then I also feed them this gel formula of food. It is this gel formula that you can mix with warm water and then it will create like a jello type food. And this is just really high quality goldfish food, and again, just helps them with their colors and health and just promotes them growing. Flakes are not good for these guys because then they ingest some of the air at the top and can float to the surface, and flakes generally tend to be lower quality than pellets are. So with that being said, you guys, thank you so much for watching again, and I hope you enjoyed meeting my goldfish. This is Carter, and Hazel is off screen currently, I think. And I hope you liked learning the specific care requirements of goldfish because they are such great fish pets. And I just want to make sure that everyone takes the best possible care of these guys, because if you do, they can be awesome. So if you liked the video, please leave a like down below and a comment about your personal experiences with pet goldfish. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you would like to be notified about my 3 times a week upload schedule. And with that being said, you guys, thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you next time. Bye.